Hello there, and welcome back to War Thunder. So, the first scene of this video in the Le Triomphant, which is the Battle Pass Premium Reward vehicle, is both showing good and bad fortune in this ship. Focus on the frontal turret rotation speed. It's as low as it is in battleships, and I actually have to reverse and turn to support it in time. And yeah, the ship is highly vulnerable, and if I cannot really ammo rack the SKR-7 here, then I'm in big trouble. And it just shows that this destroyer is a mixed bag, really. And honestly, if it weren't for the hit in the ammo rack right now, I'd be toast. But I'm anyway, because I took so much damage to the hull that I actually flooded to death with the ability lost to seal the flooding. Now, this ship has good points and it has not so good points. Overall, I'd say it's a decent ship. It has a certain playstyle. The meta in War Thunder is not really generous to it, yet I think that it will have its lovers. In a nutshell, it's somewhere of a mixture between the German Navik destroyers and the Russian destroyers, the older ones. And if you like them as long-range snipers, be my guest. Like the Stroini, it has some good points, but the DPM is low, and to hit where you really want to hit, that's the difficult part. Now, let's just go over the good parts. First of all, I really like the design, the looks. The camouflage here in particular is something different, and I like this. You have also those big 138mm guns. You have some decent AA. You have torpedoes with really great firing arcs that almost enable you to do some torpedo jousting if somebody comes around the island and you're not fully broadside to launch your torpedoes. Don't worry, you have the firing angles, and if you hit, you have strong HE and really good SAP. And then when we come to the not so great parts, then we have to say that your top speed of 80 kilometers per hour might be some of the best for destroyers, but in fact it's rather pointless, and you do not have a coastal fleet ship to support you for the caps, so you do not have overall in the lineup not so much influence as you want. Also, with battle rating 4.7, you still will face a lot of up tiers and you will face cruisers, and honestly your SAP has good yield with its remarkable 2.5 kilograms. That's not bad. That's more than twice as much as the American 5-inch 38 high yield SAP variant, and you're lacking the penetration. 77 millimeters is alright versus destroyers, but at 5 kilometers 54 millimeters and at 10 kilometers 36 millimeters, that doesn't really challenge the armor of even lightly protected light cruisers. So you can still get in those meat hits, and they hurt, but there are several problems. And first of all, you have a 5-second reload. Your turret rotation is really bad, and well, the thing is, you have only 4 turrets, 4 138mm guns, and your sister ship, the Le Fantastique class, Le Marlin of the tech tree, and I'm sorry if I butchered here the pronunciation, has those 5 guns. Also, in particular, it has even better heavy AA, if you will, with the 40 millimeters, whereas you have also those remarkably bad 37s. They're like single shots, forget about them, and you do not have that many 40 millimeters. You have only 2, and you also have a lot of 20s, but that's okay. So you also don't have armor, and the problem is that you're not really flexible. Now, when I say that you can perform those meat hits, yes, for the first few salvos, if you hit, you do great damage. As you can see here, I'm sniping, and I have some good results. But when it comes to destroying the ships, you know, to get the final few percent, sometimes it's really tedious if you do not hit, if the enemy shoots back, disables your guns because of the lack of armor, and so forth. Sometimes you just don't get the kills. Sometimes you just get a lot of assists. You cannot combat multiple enemies at once as you could, for example, with the US destroyers. You're not dominant in the long range department as the Soviet destroyers with their 130mm that have twice or even 3 times as much penetration. And honestly, your HE is good, but it's barely better than the 5-inch 38 HE. You do not have radar, your main guns cannot really work against aircraft, you don't have proxy fuse, and when it comes again back to the firepower, there are a couple of things holding it back. Your sister ship that I just mentioned has 5 of those guns, and the position of the rear super firing one got replaced with a 4-inch British gun that also has 5-second reload, so you don't have many more shells in the air for that. And you know, that kind of TNT filler both for the HE and the SAP is not really great. Different trajectory, it's almost useless except in close ranges. And the problem is, the final problem is that your most rear guns broadside firing arc is strictly speaking restricted by a boat crane. And so you're perfectly broadside, and in any other ship that would be fine to bring all guns to bear, and in this one you have to angle either forward or rearward to have access to all 5 guns. And have I mentioned the really appallingly poor turret rotation speed? So that's really bad. And the final thing that I want to talk about are the torpedoes. I mentioned the remarkably good firing angles, and that is true because you have 3 triple launchers firing the 23DT torpedoes that have 72 kilometers per hour maximum speed and 9 kilometer range without the torpedo mode, and 308 kilograms of explosive mass. And with the torpedo mode you have then a respectable 13 kilometer range with a still somewhat usable 65 kilometer per hour top speed. I would go without the torpedo mode, and you are then having a torpedo that's somewhere overall a bit more usable but with less bang than the German G7A variant. You also have some depth charges, they're fine, 130 kilograms, but you know, you have 9 torpedoes in 3 triple launchers, 1 central launcher with normal firing angles, I would say, and then 1 triple launcher per side with those really fantastic firing angles. Now, when I say that this ship is not really flexible, this is what I mean. First of all, you have to choose 1 versus 1s. You're best at medium range, and you have to really play it like a vulture, you know, prey on unsuspecting victims and then try to knock them out. And sometimes you really have bad luck with your RNG. And in other destroyers you just don't have this problem. The German 128mm guns, they bring in similar damage, I would say, but they fire significantly faster. The US destroyers with their 5-inch 38s, they're just best in class when it comes to the raw DPM shells in the air per minute. And the SAP has been severely nerfed, but at least you can disable the enemy with HE, you know, splash the turrets, causing fires, causing floods, then switch to SAP and, you know, give them a death by 1,000 cuts or an ammo rack, because you have more shells in the air to hit the ammo rack, for instance, or the magazine, whatever you want to call it. And this is so tedious with the ship, when you just don't get in the final hits, when you just have to try to get things done. And honestly, the HE is heavy enough to deal damage to low tier destroyers, but anything with armor, you have a bad luck. And this is the very best battle that I had in like 2 weeks of trying. And here you can observe, I just noticed that I got shot from the other side, and it takes forever to react to this guy. Again, I have to just turn the ship to support the turret rotation speed, and I only got one shell off, and that versus a USS Wilkinson. Not one of those destroyers I think is all that great. And despite your 80 kilometers per hour top speed, I couldn't really save the game, and this is one of the rare examples where I actually decide to use a backup. Just to bring battle rating 4.7 into perspective, you have the USS Frank Knox, which has a 6.0, well, it had a 6.0 civil line modifier, and I think, let me just look it up, I think the Frank Knox has still a 5.85 civil line modifier, versus you in the Le Triomphant have a 4.65 civil line modifier. You get less kills, less RP overall, and you share your battle rating with the Dugong 3 in its 1944 configuration, that's the premium, or the Jeanne d'Arc, which is a Jeanne d'Arc class in its 1944 configuration, which have twice the amount of bigger caliber barrels. Yes, they have a longer reload, but they have some armor to make up for it. And this is just where the ship really has a little bit of a tough spot to be in, right? And this is tragic because I would really love to love the ship, and just like with the USS Mississippi and ships that should be better, it just doesn't fit the meta that well. I cannot kill this guy in time in order to prevent the capping, right? And I knew that this was gonna happen, and still I try my best. And also the ship is really fast in a straight line, but when you turn, when you get damaged, you bleed a lot of speed, and that is so easily done, like with all destroyers. But for you, this is meant to be an advantage, but you rarely can play this card. And while you have also this nice firepower, it barely gives you an advantage versus other destroyers. In fact, very often you do not have an advantage. And I would love this ship to be a bit more relevant. Is this ship worth picking up the battle pass for it? I would argue no. But if you pick it up anyway, it might be a nice experience. It might give you the chance to start the French, to get over the low tier experience. But don't judge no forces because of the experience that you will have. This ship is, if it is the first ship that you will pick up. Again, it has good things to talk about, but overall it's not an excellent ship. It's not an absolute winner. It's not a ship that just beats the world. And it doesn't have to be, but it's just not good enough to make it worth talking more about it. And here, all the AA that I had, the 40mm Bofors, the 20mm, the 37s, it didn't help me. And I'm now doomed. I'm sinking due to the stupid auto-sinking mechanic, and I can't kill a Japanese destroyer. And yeah, this is why I cannot decap this cap. And the rest of my team is just not there in time, and this is why I die. And this is why I lose here this battle. But overall, it was a decent result. I hope you enjoyed this video, and this is the best that I could do. And I hope you give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other as usual on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.